Welcome to the Socialites podcast with 𝗀𝗵𝗄𝗃𝗏𝗏, where I interview changemakers, innovators and community managers on how they grow and activate their communities online. Brought to you by Social Mediology. Welcome everyone to episode 58 of the Socialites podcast. I am here with Jenn Donovan and I'm so excited about today's interview. But Jenn is a marketing thought leader, change maker, coach and mentor for small businesses, a keynote speaker and a podcaster. She's founder of the extremely successful community Facebook group 𝗵𝗄𝗃𝗏𝗏, which currently has about 330,000 members. She's co-founder of social enterprise Spend With Us, Australia's answer to Amazon, but for rural and regional small businesses. And she's founder of Social Media and Marketing Australia. Jenn is on a mission to ensure the lost art of human-to-human marketing and community are seated firmly in everyone's marketing strategy this year and beyond. She's speaking my language. And Jenn also has 10 chooks, 3 children, 2 peacocks, 2 guinea fowl, 1 husband, 1 dog, 1 cat, and several pet lambs, which I love and look forward to exploring more about that. So welcome, Jenn. It is great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Kate. I'm really looking forward to this conversation for sure. Thank you.
So tell me, Jenn, what is it that lights you up? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
What lights me up and probably what gets me out of bed in the morning are probably 2 different things. What lights me up is, I guess I'm so passionate about marketing and social media and things like that. Like, when I sit down at my desk every day, I'm just so excited to sort of dig in. I go down really big rabbit holes, which are never that great. But generally I really do love, just talking to my clients and helping them out and seeing their aha moments and having them just get it all of a sudden. And also, seeing their progress as well. So all that really lights me up. What actually gets me out of bed in the morning is probably my 3 pet lambs bowing at my window because they want their milk and the sun's up, so I should be up. So they're 2 different things that actually light me up and get me up. But yeah, no, that's life in the household of Jenn.
And, for those who are not in Australia, I can picture it so clearly. Your beautiful property, covered in animals and children. And I imagine you get nice screeching Australian birds in the background too, which I know a lot of people in Europe and America find very, very random.
Yeah. And certainly my children are 17, 18 and 21. So they definitely aren't out of bed before I am. It's a matter of dragging them to their respective works and schooling.
You're at the other end of the spectrum to me with a 5 and a 7-year-old. So
yeah, definitely.
In the morning. So Jenn, tell us a little bit about your journey up to launching 𝗵𝗄𝗃𝗏𝗏, and then we'll talk about how that came about.
Yeah. So I guess I started my career off in law. So I did law for about 17 or 18 years. And as my story goes, my best friend and I, we had way too much wine to drink one night. And we were just talking about, we should throw our corporate jobs in and we should start our own business. And so then we got the local paper out and we saw a business for sale. And, within about a week, we'd been to the bank, got the loan. And I remember settlement day literally shaking, and I'm not the type of person who gets stressed very much to that point of wanting to bring up breakfast. But I was like, how did this happen so quickly? I was in law and now I'd bought myself a retail business. So and my best friend and I, and we're still best friends, we have been since we were 14, but we ran that for about 7 years. It was always the plan to build and sell, so that's exactly what we did. But that's kind of where I found my passion for marketing and social media. Instagram was kind of a thing, but not really a thing. It was very much, like a blog type place to hang out, very different to what it is now. Facebook groups and Facebook itself, to have a Facebook page, you could put up a post and it would go everywhere. Whereas now, it's not so much like that. So I kind of have had to grow my marketing knowledge with, the platforms that are about as well. So yeah, that's kind of where I found my passion for marketing and social media. And when we sold that business, I went out doing what I do now, which is, teaching small business owners, how to basically make marketing a priority and why they should, because I know if you want to grow, more people just need to know about how amazing your products or services are, which, involves marketing. So that's kind of my business journey to where I am today.
I call those early days the days of the wild, wild west, when you could literally just write a status update. You didn't even need an image and it would go viral. But yes, we don't have that so much anymore.
Not so much.
So tell us about Buy From a Bush business and then how that's evolved in Spend With Us and how they work together.
Yeah. So, I guess because part of my job is teaching small business owners how to grow their businesses and how to make marketing a priority. Pre-pandemic, I used to do a lot of traveling. So I live, in the Riverina of New South Wales. So probably, 3 hours north, 3 hours south was kind of my district that I used to travel around a lot. And this particular week, I was in very drought-ridden Riverina country, talking to small business owners. It was the end of October 2019. And everyone was sad. Everyone was, I guess when you're in drought, basically farmers don't have money, towns don't have money is the reality of living out in rural Australia. And all these retailers and business owners, they just weren't looking forward to Christmas. They knew that sales just weren't going to be great because the farmers just weren't going to have a good harvest, and therefore the money just wasn't going to be generated within the town. And I guess as I heard this more and more over the week, and Buy From the Bush, which was an Instagram hashtag that was kind of trending at the time, people were like, well, how do I get an Instagram? What do I do? And how do I use it? And I thought to myself, that's just way too confusing. A lot of small business owners in rural Australia that are perhaps haven't grown up with social media didn't understand Instagram. So my thought was, I'll open a Facebook group. I'll invite them. I'll invite my friends. If they invite their friends, then there's an opportunity for them to make a sale other than waiting for foot traffic to come past their stores. So that was really the inspiration, was just kind of hearing this problem all week and thinking, how can I help? So I came home on Friday night, opened the group, invited all my friends, invited all my clients, and just, put it out there. I had no idea what I was creating. Like literally no idea. I thought, that I can remember back, very initial posts, it's like 1,000 members, woohoo, 5,000 members. Oh my God, we're awesome. And now it's like 330,000 members. Okay. Like it's just, because I will tell you that once we tipped the 100,000 members, the group changed. And, we might get into that a little bit later as we sort of discuss it. And what I had noticed was as the group had got so big, people's posts would disappear very quickly. So if they didn't sort of post when people were online, their posts got swamped quite quickly. Because, if you've got 80,000 businesses posting at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, like obviously you slide down the list quite quickly. So I knew I needed to create something else to help that. And Lauren and Sarah, who had started Spend With Us, which was very much around the bushfires and helping people get online because obviously they couldn't have foot traffic anymore, and getting online quite quickly. We kind of talked a little bit, about different things, different collaborations we'd done together. So basically, I just reached out to them and said, I need a platform. I need a marketplace. I don't want to build it myself. Are you interested in collaborating or, joining forces? To which we discussed for a few months and then decided that's what we were going to do. So that was kind of how we got together, was basically, there was a problem. I wasn't prepared to solve it myself. And they already had the solution. So why not, why build something else that was already out there? So I
think you chose to collaborate there, and we'll include a link to in the interview that I did with Sarah from Spend With Us.
Yeah. Yeah.
From both ends of that collaboration.
Yes.
But yeah, it's one of the soapboxes that I get on is about the duplication of things in Australia, where we're a relatively small population compared to the rest of the world. And I love it when people just see that collaboration is the natural next step rather than trying to recreate, things that may
Yeah. Yeah. So we sort of started up a company, I think, in about June 2020 together, and then launched in August 2020. But we only ever met for the first time in real life in March 2021. So we'd never actually met face to face. So until we'd been in business with each other for about 6 or 7 months. So so Sarah traveled to Melbourne, Lauren and I traveled to Melbourne, and we sort of stayed in a motel for a couple of days. So it was great to
must have had a small window period where you
tiny, really tiny. We timed it well. Remember those days?
I know, we have so many of those conversations now, don't we? Remember when? And so if we could hone in a little, I guess, on that journey of how Buy from a Bush business, how that community grew, like all good communities, that they tend to come from someone's personal experience, and you were on the ground, you saw how drought was really impacting your clients and other businesses. So you decide to invite them all to a Facebook group, you invite your friends. Once you'd done that, what do you think changed in terms of that starting to organically grow and have a life of its own that wasn't you inviting individuals into that space? Can you identify what may have changed?
Yeah, I don't know if I can exactly pinpoint it. I would like to say that we are farmers, so we were living the drought as well. So it wasn't just the problem I was seeing with my clients, but, when your beautiful, strong husband collapses on the kitchen floor in complete, I don't know if we can get through this, that things are bad, and that other people's households are probably 5 times as bad as that. So it was very, very personal for me to try and help in that way as well. But I think people really embraced, I think it was a whole movement that was happening in rural Australia. And I think people, there was a lot of fundraising that was probably going on maybe 2 or 3 months prior to my starting my group, where lots of very big commercial television stations were doing, traveling around the country and raising money for farmers and raising money for fodder and, food for the animals and things like that. So people were very much aware of what was happening in rural Australia, and not to sort of knock the sales out of anybody who was trying really hard. But as farmers ourselves and living in the community, I never saw any of that money. My community never saw any of that money. So I don't know where that money went. I'm assuming it went to people that were much more desperate than us. But that really stung me and stayed with me. It's just like, well, who's doing something for the small people then? Like the people that aren't perhaps as worse off. And I think that kind of also contributed to it, that people no longer just wanted to donate because they didn't know where the money was going. And so therefore the whole feeling of you could actually buy something from the person and that money went directly into their bank account and directly put food on the table or helped feed the animals or whatever that was. I think that had a really good feel good for people inside, going, okay, I can donate, but I can also spend money with the actual people who live in rural Australia who are really struggling. And I think also the movement itself helped, but I think people, and I don't know, I don't want to sound really narcissistic, but I think people were really like surprised at the talent there was in rural and regional Australia. They were kind of like, wow, like there's some really amazing people who make things or people who import really amazing things and sell them through their businesses. It's not a handmade group, like there is opportunity for everybody in there. And I guess I looked at that in that, if I look at my country town, if everyone closed down that didn't hand make or, didn't make their own products, we'd have a ghost town. And it's very similar anywhere that you would look. So I wanted to have the opportunity for anyone to come on board, not just people who handmade themselves, handmade the products themselves. So I think there was a whole combination of things, but I think it was also, that John might come in. He's like, oh my God, this is so impressive, and invited all his friends. And then one of John's friends were like, oh my God, this is so impressive, and invited all his friends. So organically, I think the group sold itself because people felt good by spending the money with the people, and, you know, knowing that it got to the people who needed it. But also I think people were amazed at the products that they could buy.
Yeah. And one of the things I think you said in there that's really interesting, and it's something that you can't really teach but is essential for any community, is empathy. And you know, have your own lived experience of that and continue to, I imagine, and that gives you an insight, and I guess helps to establish some of that trust and credibility quite quickly as well. You're not an outsider coming in saying, I want to do this for you or to you or on you, which a lot of, you know, people who mean really well like I really condescending feeling. So you're kind of all in it together, which is
absolutely. Like I remember probably not this drought, probably the previous one that was early in the 2000s or mid 2000s, we had a big day put on for my local district, and I distinctly remember the man from St Vincent de Paul basically crying at the end of the day because no one would take his shopping vouchers. He had $100 vouchers to give, you know, out that were for IGA. None of us would take them because farmers don't do that. Rural people have this pride that, you know, they don't want to take charity. I'm generalizing, you know, here, but I know from my community it was and he was basically stuffing them in our handbags when we weren't looking just to get rid of them. And I think that again contributed to the group, that they didn't feel like they were being given charity. They were actually selling their goods. And then there was the whole community feeling of it, of this person is going through exactly what I'm going through. So, you know, they were very like-minded people. They were going through very lived experiences, like you said. And so it created that community where people, you know, started chatting to each other offline, or, you know, communicating and collaborating and saying, oh gosh, I love your things. You know, do you wholesale? I'd love to put them in my shop. And, you know, that is what was born out of it. And people who had great hobbies, who auntie would buy them, or, you know, grandma might buy what you made. But all of a sudden, everyone else in the world was saying, I want what you make as well. So that real validation of taking hobbies into businesses was another big shift that I saw.
And did you keep the group quite transactional, or was there space for those more support type conversations? So I guess what guidelines or parameters did you have? Because it could have been a group that became just about anything.
Yeah, look,
what guidelines did you put around?
For a start, it was either or. So it was people, like there was great conversations happening. But like I said, at about the 100,000 mark, it changed. And I had to really rein on the rules and really pull people back. I remember waking up. You got
to 100,000 before you had to do that, though.
Yeah. And I remember waking up, you know, one Sunday morning, and like there was like 2,000 reports from, you know, and people were fighting in there, and it brought me to tears, because I'm like, that's the end of the group we knew, because now people have seen this. And I was in bed, so I wasn't able to stop it quick enough for it not to take over. So I deleted the post, and then I brought rules in. So now it is very transactional. It's like you've got something to sell, you know. Stories, of course, as we know as marketers, are huge in selling. So people do still get to tell their stories, but there is a product with a price and a location connected to that, which is kind of sad. But also I know, you know, that's the way the group had to go. Because we've certainly seen iterations, like, you know, when the pandemic first started, people were very much against imports. So there was a lot of anger, people who had imported products that they weren't supporting Australian made and this and that, which was never the focus of the group. So again, we needed to really tighten and rein that in. So it's been an evolution, I guess, that goes with the waves of the values that we're feeling inside the country.
And how much consultation have you done as that group? I guess how much has the group helped to decide the direction of the group?
Very much.
Ways of doing that?
No, very much. But I think also I knew what I wanted the group to be, which is a safe community. So anything that goes outside that safe community, I'm very harsh on people who, get in there to make trouble. Like, they're kicked out. Like, 300,000 people, one person's not going to make or break a group anymore. So very much, this has to be a safe space, because these people are going through a lot. And I talked a lot about the drought, but when I started it, it was all about the drought. But then, of course, we had bushfires. Then we had COVID. And then we had some floods. And then we had a mouse plague. Like, it's just, these people are very vulnerable, and they've got to have a safe place to be able to post and tell their stories and, get some income.
And so from a business perspective, I understand when you came together with Spend With Us, that then became more of a business. Up until that point, was this really just something that you'd done for the love of it, or was there any kind of business model around the group or the community?
I had implemented purely, I guess, a little bit selfishly, a VIP system. So basically, if people paid $10 a month, they could actually get VIP, which meant that I didn't have to approve their posts. Now, when I say I did that selfishly, was because I was approving 500, 600, 700 posts a day. And that is a lot of my time doing that. So I was like, oh, I've got to be able to do this better. So it was kind of like the people who were prepared to pay, as long as they stuck to the rules, they didn't need my approval anymore. So that probably, cut down the approvals to maybe 400 or 500 a day type of things. So kind of started to tinker on the business model, but I can tell you I got held down for that. Like, there were haters out there who were like, oh my God, this started as a charity and now you're trying to get money out of these people. And haters are going to hate. 𝗬𝗨 said that so well to us, in her songs. So I tinkered on the business model, but really it was done just to try and help me out a little bit to make less work for me.
And did you bring in any kind of system around volunteer moderators or other people to help you manage the group?
Yeah, Kate, I had a couple of volunteer moderators, and they ended up being two of the most awful humans that walk this earth. So I had a very, very bad experience with letting some people in that didn't have the same morals and values as myself, and really started to take the group an ugly way, to the point where I was actually handing it over to them. I was transitioning out of it and prepared to hand it over to them. And then a particular thing happened that made me wake up and go, this isn't the group, this is them. Like, I can get my beautiful little group or big group back. I just need to get rid of them. So that's what I did in the end. But that's probably a story for a whole other podcast. But it is a very big lesson for me in business is, who to trust. I'm a very trusting person. And unfortunately, I trusted the wrong people and almost lost the beautiful asset that I had created.
Yeah, wow. You're certainly not alone in that as an experience, but such a shame, because I guess having support allows you to do more of what you do.
Yeah,
what you do best as well. So what are some?
But without that, I don't think there would have been the desperation to reach out to Lauren and Sarah. So these things have a habit of having silver linings at the end of the day.
And so when you think about the journey of that group, and we'll talk about how that might have shifted since, teaming up with Spend With Us. I was thinking buy with us, spend with us, buy from a push business. So when you think about that community journey, what are some of the key strategies that you've put in place to support the growth of that community? Because it sounds like it's grown very organically. You haven't had to do necessarily so much of the hustle and proactive content type strategies, but what are some of the strategies that you've used in that community growth journey?
I guess being very focused on what I wanted the group to look like and not swaying from that. So the group was created to help small, rural and regional businesses get more money, because if towns have more money, communities have more money. I live it, I breathe it, I have it, in my own backyard. So very much sticking towards that goal, and anything that, and that's how decisions are made. Will that help my community? No, right. out you go, or that's not going to happen. Will it help my community? Yes, it will. All right, let's go for it type of thing. So very laser focused on what I wanted the group to achieve, but also, like I said before, making it a very safe space that people felt safe and encouraged. I think a lot of communities that I've seen that perhaps have both online and offline that have failed is they've failed in the safety. They've failed to allow their community members to feel like they are safe enough to ask questions, safe enough to post, safe enough to live in that space. Because, like I said very early on, these people aren't exactly or a lot of them at the start, I should say, weren't exactly computer savvy or social media savvy. So they were putting themselves in an uncomfortable position knowing they had to survive in business. So yeah, like creating that parameters around safe and being quite open about that as well. Like, people report posts and we take action. We are always circling around in that group. Yes, sometimes we drop the ball 100% because we all have our own businesses as well. And so we're just trying to slip this into different time slots that we have during the day or at night. But they're probably the two biggest strategies that I have had is, and trying to give everyone an equal share as well. And keeping, again, that rule of rural and regional. In fact, until Lauren and Sarah and I collaborated on Spend With Us, it was very rural. Like it was, populations under 20,000. So it's sort of with exceptions of drought and things like that and bushfires, but it was very much focused around those little rural towns. And then when we joined, they had a different rule. So we kind of opened it up and now it's sort of that 100,000 type population that we're, if you live in a town bigger than that, then our platform's not necessarily for you. So but yeah, look,
there's a lot of demand for that through COVID. Businesses have pivoted to online. You could almost replicate it and have a COVID model for.
Yes, and people have asked me to do that, and I've probably sat back in my chair and gone, oh dear, and like you get a little bit addicted to that sort of thing. I would love to, but I don't have the time to. And so it's just like, and there are a lot of people, I had a post on my Instagram not so long ago about someone who was basically against the whole business model, saying I should open it up to everyone because everyone is suffering, and they are 100%, but I can't save everyone. So and this person actually told me I should be ashamed of myself, and that one hurt big time. But like it's sort of like I've got to stick to my business model because that's how it started, and if I start swaying from that, I'm going to lose the people who are relying on that because they're going to lose trust in me because I've changed what it looks like.
I love how crystal clear you are on the purpose and the values, because I think that's where a lot of communities lose their way and, is often the end of it. Because if you upset your founding members that that you started for and existed for, then, it's very easy for communities to go rogue, if you like.
Yes. Yeah, like, bright, shiny objects. I could have done a lot of different things, but it's exactly I've got to stick to the purpose because that's how it started. So, and that's where it's having the most impact.
And so you alluded before to the fact that things changed when you hit around that 100,000 mark in the group. What kind of things changed at that point?
I think it had outgrown the model that I had thought it was starting, like to help my clients and my customers and my friends and their friends. And we had attracted some haters, troublemakers, opinionated, and people who didn't quite believe what I believed. So they were very just wanting to disrupt, I guess, what the community had looked like. And if you think of 100,000 people in a city offline, of course you're going to have such a big breadth of people that are very diversified, that have different opinions and values and things like that. So it's no different to the community online. So for me, it changed because I needed to be more present as the person who was running the community. So I had to really, I guess moderate a lot more. Whereas prior to that, I felt like it was this beautiful little community that kind of moderated itself and called people out and that sort of thing. I don't remember being in the trenches as much under 100,000 as to what I was between 1 and 2.
And at what point in the group did the partnership with Spend With Us occur? So where was your group at when you...
I think it might have been around the 250,000 mark. So it still had grown quite significantly. But yeah, I think it was around 240, 250 from memory.
And did you have a good sense up until that point how many in the group were selling as opposed to being there because they wanted to buy? Was that always a fairly equal distribution, or was it?
Yeah, I always found that calculation really hard because a lot of the sellers were buyers. So a lot of the sellers, as they got more money, they wanted to support other small businesses. So, I would always like to think it was like a 60-40 split, but whenever I've tried to do, tried to get that information out of the group, it's so hard to do that. You only get a small percentage of people that are prepared to, click a button and, give you that information. But I found that it was probably higher than 60-40 because a lot of the sellers were purchasers.
And so what did your collaboration, partnership, new business look like with Spend With Us? How did that change from it just being, but being a Facebook group?
Yeah.
What evolved out of that?
So what evolved out of that was basically, as you see with Spend With Us now, it's a marketplace. So think Amazon, but for rural and regional small businesses. But they were very focused on bushfire businesses to help them through, the bushfires, which of course, in what are we doing? August 2021 is still a really big thing. These people that suffered from these bushfires, back 18 months ago are still really reeling from it. And
COVID came along and it was like the bushfires took a back seat when it was.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, it's definitely something that people should be well aware of, is that these people are still waiting for their houses to be rebuilt, trying to get their businesses back up and going and things like that. So I guess the collaboration looked like basically just joining the two together. So my VIPs came across and now they were offered a shop front if they wanted it, as in a web page, a website, if they wanted it, which is always something that I had half promised but didn't know what that would look like. And then I guess it gave people the opportunity who were in the group trying to sell, but their only way of selling was message me. So they had no checkout ability or anything like that. And, and I think that's okay for a start, but I think in longevity says that people need to be able to trust you. And I think having a secure checkout is, as a retailer, is almost a must these days. It sort of gave a lot of those businesses an opportunity to get online really quickly, really cheaply, and, start selling and having that platform that, basically had that checkout for them, as well as somewhere to showcase their products and services. So that we launched the website, not quite as you see it now, but, there's been a few iterations of it, but kind of what you see now back in August 2020.
Yeah, wow. And so interesting. I guess the question that's floating around in my head is, had there not been this really thriving community already and you just started a website, that would have been a really different journey. And what I'm hearing you say is that, that community really gave you the opportunity to figure out what was going to work for people and to be guided by them in that journey. which is, what we all aim for when we're building community.
Yeah, look, I talk about, the community and sometimes I feel like I sound quite self-centered, I've given this and I've done this, but at the end of the day, that community has taught me so much about business, about life, about trust, about collaborations, just the gifts that have come from running a group and starting a group and watching it grow and explode. There's things that you would never learn unless you had been through that, which have been total gifts, especially, because my other side of my business is doing coaching and mentoring to small businesses. So the gifts that have come from having a community like that are so big for me, for sure.
So if you were giving advice to other smaller companies or small businesses who wanted to start a community in their business or to support their business, what would you say to them?
Look, community is everything. Having a community who know, like, and trust you, having a community who are willing to sing your praises, buy from you over and over again and refer you, that's kind of like the gold nugget of business. If you can surround yourself and put a picket fence around your best buyers and your community, I think building a business all of a sudden just got so much easier for you. But you don't need 300,000 people. Like, it comes with its own set of problems. Like, you're kind of a mayor of an online city. So, and I think that's, comes back to social media, and you would know so well that people like, if I can just get 100,000 or 1,000 more followers, my business will be more successful. And so it's like, no, nurture the people you've got now. So whether you have customers, you've got 10 customers or 100 customers, making them feel like they belong to a community. As humans, that's one of our big things, is we want to belong somewhere. So, can they belong to your community? Are you offering that belonging that people are longing for? So yeah, my advice would be to do it. And really understand what the goals of that community would be for you, and stick to those goals, I guess. And the goal can be to have a community who will buy what you sell, and that's totally fine. We're in business. We have to, we're in the business of making money. Not everything has to be done out of the goodness of your heart, but surrounding yourself with those people will make business easier for you.
And I think it's one of the things that still works beautifully and organically on social media is that we're all connected to people like us. So if you truly understand who you're serving, they lead you to more people like them. They lead you, as I say, they lead you to your next best customer. Yeah. But it's also, it's, I lost the thought, but yes, it's that organic growth. And that's what I was going to say. I think, so often when businesses think about community, they think about how it's going to solve the problems of the business. And what you've demonstrated so beautifully is that you need to think about how community solves the problems or the dreams and aspirations of your customers and of your community. And then the byproduct is always the sale. But when we're so fixated on the sale and on how it's going to solve our cash flow problems or our bottom line or our support issues, then, we often miss the mark in community. So I think you've demonstrated that really beautifully with the growth of your community as well.
Thank you. Yeah. And I guess, as any good marketer would tell you, like, the one thing you need to know is who's your ideal client. You need to know them back to front, up the side down, around the other way. And how are you going to do that if you don't have a community of people to watch and talk to and have conversations with and watch their conversations between each other? Like, that's how you learn, I guess, more and more and more about your ideal client, in order to, help you make better sales or more profit. So community has so many different levels to, the magic that can come out of it.
And I love, the most exciting businesses to me are the ones that collaborate with their customers about what it is that they're offering, because, it's gold what your customers can tell you about what you're offering and how you might do that differently or better.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So Jen, I always like to ask, apart from your own community, which of course you love and cherish deeply, what is another favourite online community of yours that you love being a part of?
Yeah, I guess as a podcaster, I love the Australian Podcasters Collaborative. I love getting in there, and it's such a great space to ask questions. Like, I've been podcasting for a couple of years, but I'm self-taught. I've never done a course. I watch YouTube videos. So there's a lot of people out in there that are just so willing to share their wisdom, who are so much more experienced or tech-minded than what I am. So that is one of the communities I do love to hang out in, for sure. And then there's probably the One Roof, the ladies. So the ladies that run One Roof, which is a really great membership. Again, just all about women supporting women in business. A really remarkable community as well.
Wonderful. Well, we will share all of your links to your various endeavours. You're one very busy woman. How do you do all of that in one life? I'm not sure, but congratulations on everything that you've built. So we'll certainly share all of those links so that people can find you and find Buy From a Bush business and spend with us. Is there anything else you'd like to share as we wrap up today?
No, not really. I guess just if you're sort of looking to belong to a community and you're searching for like-minded people, maybe that's your sign to start your own community. Maybe maybe you need to be the attractor rather than the attracted. Is that the right way? I'm not quite sure if that's the right way, but you know what I mean? Like, if you're looking for that tribe to belong to or that community to belong to, maybe that's your sign to maybe start one yourself and start attracting like people that way. But community is everything when it comes to building a business in 2021. And I'm sure that people belong to great communities. So just start looking around what you love and, what lights you up about being in that community as well.
Yeah. And as you said so eloquently earlier, that zero tolerance when people are not a fit for your community. I think, most of us have moved to that now, which is great, because your community is never going to be everything to everybody. And yeah, I love that. If you don't find your own tribe, go create it.
Yeah. But you've also got to have a community of people around you that you can say those things to, where you get frustrated and that sort of thing. And I think they're called your friends. So.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much, Jen, for being here today. It's been great speaking with you.
Thank you, Kate. Thanks for the opportunity to tell my story. It's just, been brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Social Lights podcast, produced by Social Mediology. You can connect with us on Facebook at Social Lights Podcast, and you can find today's show notes and more episodes at socialmediology.com.au/social lights. Please subscribe in your favourite podcast platform to receive future episodes and share with your tribe to inspire others to action.